All right, so now that we've gotten really comfortable with fractions and decimals and percents, we're actually going to use that knowledge with stuff we care about, and we're going to start here with money. So in science, you guys have been learning about consumers and how consumers are not producers because they cannot produce their own food. So same with you guys, like you're consumers for the reasons of needing to go and buy foods and goods and services for your basic needs. So we're going to start here first with just some basic calculations and make sure we're good to go before we see any problems where we're actually trying to calculate any consumer math. And so first I'm going to get you guys started here with finding just 10% of any number. So what are we really doing when we're finding 10% of any number? So you guys remember that percents are always out of 100. So 10% would be 10 out of this 100. And when we reduce that, we can divide both by 10, and we get this 1/10. Now, if you take half of a number, you really just divide it by 2. Think about it. If you take half of 20, you're just dividing it by 2 to get 10. So really, we have this little shortcut here that says when you're taking a tenth of some number, you can just divide it by 10. Also, 1/10 is the same as seeing a 0.1, which means if you're using a calculator, you could just multiply it by 0.1. So we're going to talk about how we get these numbers here. And in a calculator, I'm going to have you guys start with 35. So if we take 35, first thing we could do, again, we could just divide it by 10. Boom, and that's the 3.5. Now we could take the 35 and multiply it by the 0.1, and we're going to get 3.5. So again, it doesn't matter when using your calculator. It doesn't matter if you want to divide by 10 or multiply by 0.1. So let's try another one. With the 545, we're going to start with the 545. Some of you are just going to want to divide it by 10. Boom. And if we start with 545, others of you are going to want to multiply by 0.1, 54.5. All right, so we're going to start to notice something here when we do the 3,105, 3105 times 0.10, it's 310.5. And for the last one here, if we start with 138.5 and multiply by 0.1, we get 13.85. So now I want you guys to look for a pattern. We're going to consider where the decimal is in our answer when compared to the original number. So to go from 35, it turned into a 3.5. 545 turned into 54.5. 3,105 turned into 310.5. And 138.5 turned into 13.85. So we have a little shortcut here. So instead of having to use the calculator, we could just move the decimal to the left once, and that's finding 10% of any number. All right? So I'm going to walk you guys through these examples here. I'm just going to move the decimal once to get 4.2. I'm going to move the decimal once to get 1.72. Again, finding 10% of any number, you just move the decimal once. And for this last one, number 4 here, notice when I move it left once, I get a 0.173. All right, for this next one, move the decimal once, 98.8. Moving this decimal once, 104.5. Moving the decimal once. And last but not least, move the decimal once. And that's how we get 10% of any number. You can simply move the decimal once to the left. Now we can use that, the 10% trick, to then mentally, quickly find 5, 15, and 20%. Check it out. So for 10% of 30, you just move the decimal once, and it'd be 3.0. And notice I'm going to start to write it with 2 decimal places. We want to get in the habit of writing to the nearest hundredths because we're going to be dealing with money. So 10% of 30 would be $3. Now if 10% is 3, 5% is just going to be half of that. Think about, you just got to take 10 and cut it in half to get 5%. So half of that would be 150. All right, let's say we wanted to take 10% and use that to find 20%. Well, if you take 10% and just multiply it by 2 or double it, you're going to be at 20%. So let's say, once again, we're talking about the starting number 30, and we now want to find 20% of 30. We just move the decimal once and get 3. Now double it, and that's where I'm getting this 6. Now you'll notice that I left this rule part here blank because I wanted you to decide how you'd find the 15%. Some people are just going to take this 3 and add it to the 150 because 10% plus 5% is 15%. So some people are just going to take this 3 and add it to the 150 and get that. And if that's you, all you're going to be putting over here, I'm just going to type it. If that's your rule, you're just going to say add 10% plus 5%. All right? Boom, that would be your rule. Now for some of you, you see this 5% is 150, and you might just want to multiply that by 3, because 5 times 3 is 15. So 150 times 3 is 450. So some of you might say for your rule, multiply 5% by 3. Now a third method that nobody's really going to use is you could just subtract right here, because 20 minus 5 is 15. So you could do 6 minus 150 to get 450, but most people don't like dealing with subtraction, so I'm not even going to put that one in there. So now I'm going to have you just practice real quick on your own. You're going to pause the video, and when you hit play, you'll see that I have the answers revealed. So go ahead and hit pause. All right, so now that you tried those on your own, let's check your answers. For 10%, you just move the decimal over once. To get $4, cut it in half, it'd be 2. Now 10%, if you double it, would be 20%, so 4 times 2 is 8. And 10 plus 5 is 15, so 4 plus 2 is the $6 for 15%. Now just so you guys know where we're going with this, we're going to see problems like if there was a store having a 15% off sale and the item was originally $40, how much would it cost? So 15% of 40, you'd be saving $6. Okay? Now over here, go ahead and check those answers. And now let's define some of the stuff that we're going to be exploring. All right? So down below, we've got some just vocab that you're going to be exploring in this unit. And we're going to be applying all those rational number skills where you know how to take a percent and make it a decimal. We're going to be taking these skills and applying it to calculating discounts and sale prices, tip, which is gratuity when you see it on a menu, and sales tax. So the first thing we have here is a discount. A lot of times online, it's called a promo code. You can punch in a promo code and you're going to be saving money. So again, a discount is the amount a consumer saves. We like discounts. Now the sale price is the price that it costs after you subtract the discount. So it's the price that it is when it's on sale. It's the price that you calculate after you subtract away the discount. Now tip is a percentage paid to a server for their service. So a lot of times in a restaurant, you're going to pay a server. Sometimes with house cleaning services, when the house cleaners are done, people will leave a tip. Same thing in hotels. Sometimes people will choose to leave a tip for the maid or that's going to be cleaning up the room. So anybody who provides a service, if you kind of want to say thank you, a thank you is your tip. It's a gratuity. Now common tax, tip, and discounts amount are going to be 10, 15, 20, and 25%. We're going to see these numbers a lot. And remember, to find 10% of any number, you just move the decimal to the left one spot. Now sales tax, we're going to be talking a little bit about taxes, but sales tax is the amount of money that you pay to the state or to the federal government at the point of sale, which is a lot like saying checkout. So if you're buying something online, when you get to checkout, or even when you're checking out in the grocery store, the amount of money that you owe always increases by a little because we need to pay our state government and federal government for public goods and services. Think about living in Springfield. We get a lot of snow, and so that means we have to put a lot of salt on the roads. So our roads take a beating and they get a lot of potholes and they're really uneven a lot of the time. So to fill those potholes, it's pretty expensive, and the money that we get to do that comes from the taxes that you pay in stores. So you guys pay taxes, we all pay sales taxes, and just as a friendly reminder, I'll go ahead and type this in here. Income tax, in case you're wondering, that's the tax paid on income. So like your parents, when they are paying their taxes, it's usually once a year you'll hear people say my taxes are due. They're talking about income taxes, and that's when you see things online for, or excuse me, commercials on TV for TurboTax or H&R Block. If you ever see commercials for things like that, that's going to be for something called income tax, which is money that you owe the government on any income or money that you're making. This is again money that you're earning, and anytime you earn money from your job, you do owe the government tax, but you guys won't have to worry about that quite yet because you don't have an income. All right, so that takes care of the page 1 video, and now you're going to be flipping over and there's going to be a video for this page 2 on discounts. Thank you.